solution who are all using these AWS services. For them, we need to set up, we need to give the scripts basically to create EC2, create VPC, such kind of. Okay. Now the answer is, in my previous roles as an AWS architect, I have extensive experience in building and setting up AWS accounts from scratch using Terraform. How it works? Terraform allows for infrastructure as code, making it easy to manage and provision AWS resources in a repeatable and consistent manner. How it is possible? If you take your proof of concept project activities in the past, you have used the provider in every script. What it does? Basically, it is going to open up connectivity from your laptop AWS CLI to the AWS cloud. That is going to be connected through Terraform. So that's where it is saying here. Terraform allows for infrastructure as code, making it easy to manage and provision AWS resources in a repeatable and consistent manner. When you use the provider after connecting to AWS, what you have done it, the resources you have created. What are the resources? First, VPC you have created, its components you have created. Then later, you have created the EC2s, and after that, you are setting up the servers. If it is MySQL server, it is a database you are going to create it by uploading data or something like that, right?
Yes, sir.
In these environments, I have typically utilized various AWS resources and services. As I discussed with you, different services we used it, including EC2 instances and for compute, Amazon RDS for managing databases, S3 for object storage, Amazon VPC for networking, Amazon IAM for access management, and Amazon CloudWatch for monitoring and logging. So you can say basic services I used. Whatever you used in Terraform, you can tell upfront, because you are going to work with Terraform. A lot of resources you are going to create through Terraform. When you go to the new job, what happens? There is work to build it from the scratch. You need to adopt this best practice using Terraform and building the templates for usage on different resources. Okay. If you take your script, let us say you might have built WordPress site with Terraform. In WordPress site, what we are going to do? We are going to create private and public subnets also. We are going to create the NAT gateway, assign that NAT gateway to the private route table also with our specifications given in the PPT for WordPress site building. Then later on, you are going to connect that private instance through NAT gateway from the public instance. It means two instances you have created, two EC2s, one is public, another one is private. Then through NAT gateway, it is connecting with configuration made in route table with the private EC2. Then in private EC2, you are supposed to set up MySQL, let us say. MySQL setup, you have done it. Then you need to take a CSV data and upload it. You have done all those activities. The same way, you are going to use RDS. You can create the RDS for MySQL database, and RDS will set up its own instances with two subnets. By default, it will create two subnets for safety purpose for contingency plan. Those resources also automatically RDS is creating when you give a script to create the RDS. It means RDS setup will have one code snippet. EC2 setup will have one code snippet. If you are creating S3 objects, that will have one code snippet. VPC networking will have one code snippet. If you are creating IAM roles for the users, you will have another code snippet. Then if you are monitoring the CloudWatch, there will be another code snippet. It means for all these services, you are creating different code snippets. Those you are using as templates for your colleagues to utilize at live. Okay?
Okay.
You're getting?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions here?
No, fine.
Okay, good. Okay, question 2. Now, in the question 2, Did I share the screen to you?
Yes.
Right? Right. Question is, how do you ensure that AWS environment you build adheres to security best practices and compliance standards? Can you give specific examples of security measures you implement? Okay. Now, if you see here, what are the security best practices for compliance? We'll see these things. Ensuring security best practices and compliance standards in AWS environment is critical. It is mandatory for security protection purposes. I implement several security measures, including utilizing IAM to manage user access and permissions effectively. They will ask, the first question is identity access management need to be implemented. Okay. Then implement multi-factor authentication for added security to control access to accounts. Let us say I might know your password for IAM role, IAM user ID. But if you have MFA, multi-factor authentication, your mobile will get password, OTP kind of thing, right? You know OTP, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is another third level protection. You are implementing it for safety purpose. This is also part of the security policies. Then another thing is enforcing data encryption at rest using AWS key management service for sensitive data stored in S3 and EBS volumes. There are key management services. When you are using S3, you can take that options and use KMS. At the same time, for EBS volumes also, you can apply KMS usage. So these three are the best practices. One is identity access management following for permissions effectively. Within that, multi-factor authentication. Then key management for a service. You can use it to protect the data. Let us say another thing is implementing secure network architecture with VPC and network access control lists. NACL is there. When you create the route table, NACL can be implemented. It will ask the enable, disable options for particular security policies. Okay, that is also another security policy. Regularly applying security patches and updates to the AWS resources, including EC2 instances and RDS databases to prevent vulnerabilities. Let us say EC2 instances, always you need to update it, upgrade. Update will give updating the library links. Upgrade will give whatever patches you need for the OS related things or particular utilities, whatever you are using in that Linux server. Those are all going to be updated. When you use that, it prevents the vulnerabilities. That's some kind of anything coming into the EC2 instance or server unauthorizedly or something like that. You are protecting your system basically. Okay. Then monitor AWS environments using AWS CloudWatch and setting up alerts for suspicious activities. See, here what happens, you are running as a web server. Even though it is in the cloud, AWS cloud, there is a possibility somebody can access also. Okay. How it is means we don't know how snatchers will do, hackers will do. There will be a lot of tools. They can capture our mobiles also. The hackers, you know that, right?
Yes.
Hackers can hack our mobile and they can operate in the back end in sleep mode, right? Are you aware of that?
Yes, sir.
The similar one, to protect that, we're supposed to monitor and put alerts for particular things. Let us say EC2 server is getting updated. Then you put alert in CloudWatch, it will give alert message. The EC2 system is getting updated or something. Or if somebody is loading software, then it will give the alert. So that alert you need to confirm it. Let us say you have already installed Apache 2, now you want to install MariaDB. Then you are going to use EC2 to install it. So when you put this kind of alerts, when you are installing MariaDB, it will give a message to you, alert. This is the activity that is going on. Are you doing or somebody is doing kind of thing. You know,
Okay.
you have access with Facebook, right? If you are accessing
Yes.
the Facebook with a different device, which is not regular device, newly you are using, then it lost the confirmation, right, from the mobile, right?
Right.
Those are the security policies they implement. Same way we are implementing in our AWS systems. Regularly performing security audits and compliance checks to ensure adherence to industry and company specific standards. Each company will have IT governance. What procedures, what policies need to be followed, they are going to document in that IT governance. That document in the first week, you should read it, understand their policies. Some of their security policies also can be implemented here, right? So these are
Yes.
the practices I'm going to implement it. You need to answer in the interview questions.
Okay.
Let me, okay. Have you previously worked on projects involving compliance with industry regulations or company specific standards? If so, how did you ensure that the AWS infrastructure was aligned with these requirements? If you see, yes, I have worked in project involving compliance with various industry regulations and company specific standards. So to ensure that AWS infrastructure aligns with these requirements, I follow a few key steps. What are those? Conducting a comprehensive risk assessment to identify potential compliance gaps and security risks. Let us say if you go to a bank follows some kind of compliance procedures. Okay, there are a lot of compliance procedures are there. If it is a healthcare unit, let us say if you are going to work for a hospital or healthcare company or drug company, there are a lot of HIPAA, HIPAA compliance procedures are there. So you need to be aware of them. You need to take those things and prepare a checklist and verify the current process what they are following in AWS. And if there are gaps, yes, obviously you need to identify that. For the same governance, compliance governances, even AWS has got its own documentation to verify within the organization what you are following it. Let us say HIPAA has got AWS compliance checklist. There is a documentation. You need to take that documentation and compare in the IT governance. You need to identify the gaps. This kind of activity is a little tricky, and also once you find the gaps, implementing them, it is a challenge for the cloud solution architect because you need to coordinate with many groups. Because if you are implementing some new security policies, what happens? The existing teams, they need to convert their work culture into the policy.
Okay.
For that, you need to take the management support. Like CEO, CTO, people will be there. Those people, they need to be aware what you are doing. Then they will give green signal. They will intimate to all the people. Like Chris is implementing these compliance governance. Please cooperate with him like that. You can't go and say, I am implementing right like that. You have to convince the people within the projects, within the program. Okay. Right. Implement AWS security services like AWS Config, AWS Cloud Trial, AWS Inspector to monitor and track changes in the environment and ensure compliance. Why these are required? Let us say AWS Config is going to monitor, AWS Config and Cloud Trial are going to be useful to monitor the EC2 operations. Let us say if some website is there, you are building website through this server and the user is going to ask some questions or sending some data. The server is supposed to write into database or write into a test file. Means a new file is created. That is going to be recorded in Cloud Trial when you configure with AWS config and Cloud Trial is set up for the EC2 instance. That kind of changes you are going to track it. Those all will come under security practices. Those need to be implemented with AWS services. Configuring AWS services to meet specific compliance standards such as HIPAA I spoke to you, right? Health governance, IT governance, HIPAA as what. Then GDPR, PCI DSS, depending on the project requirement. You can Google or ask ChatGPT what is HIPAA, what is GDPR. It will give detailed information to you. Okay, you don't need to worry about the terminology. So, yeah, to implement data encryption and access controls to safeguard sensitive data need regularly requirements. The data encryption, we use KMS for some of the services in AWS. The similar protection can be adopted. That is a best practice. You can implement it. So all these, when they ask question, you need to stay number one, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All these you need to tell with them. Then they'll trust. Okay, this guy knows all these things. Best practices, he can implement it. That way they can offer your good rate or something like that, good position or something. Okay, then regularly reviewing and updating policies and procedures to ensure continuous compliance and adherence to evolving regulations. Basically, you have some IT governance policies, you reviewed it, you adapted them, and also you updated with reference to the compliance governances like HIPAA or GDPR, something like that, whichever is allowed there in that domain, business domain, that you are going to tell them. Then there you are reviewing those policies, whether it is implemented correctly, completely by different groups. One of the activity for the solution architect is you need to review the existing policies, you need to review the newly adopted policies.
Okay.
Sorry. Then collaborating with compliance and audit teams to perform regular assessments and audits to validate compliance. Every company will have auditing, IT auditing, basically. If you take AWS is a cloud. In cloud, some organizations, they follow monthly audits. Some organizations, they follow 3 months once, quarterly audit. You need to coordinate with them because audit should be done to protect your role there, because the non-compliances need to be highlighted to the management to adhere by the teams. Okay. Let us say if somebody is using S3, if they are not using KMS, that is a violation from our policies, right? Security policies. So that comes under non-compliance. So that team is going to be escalated. The audit team is going to be escalated. These teams are not following these things. Then management will look into that and they will make sure they follow that. You don't need to worry. Audit non-compliances will come up.
Okay.
You need to make sure audit will happen. Okay. Next question number 4. What strategies do you employ to design, implement highly available and fault-tolerant AWS environments? This is the jargon. If you see from the certification onwards, everybody talks about these things. But what it is, we are going to learn here. Can you share my successful examples of such? Can you share any successful examples of such implementations? We'll see here. To design and implement highly available and fault-tolerant AWS environments, I follow these strategies. Okay. So using AWS Elastic Load Balancing to distribute traffic across multiple instances, ensuring redundancy and fault tolerance. So why ELB is required means to distribute the traffic across the globe. Let us say Amazon.com is there. Amazon.com is being used by different countries, people. So they can set up these e-commerce sites in different regions, basically, right? So each region will have some different availability zones also within the AWS data centers. Those zones can be utilized very well to access the site by the users easily. It means it reduces the speed. I mean, the speed is going to be increased within the short span of time, appearance will be there, screen appearance, okay, for the users. So that way, you are going to plan it by using the load balancers, by installing the systems in multi-regions and multi-availability zones to distribute the traffic. Basically, to distribute the traffic across multiple instances, multiple regions, multiple zones. Okay, that is one best practice. Deploying applications across multiple availability zones to ensure resiliency against availability zone failures. Let us say, if you are using different areas, multiple availability zones, then it is safety for you. Let us say you are creating one WordPress site. When you create it, the route tables, subnets, it will ask which availability zone you want to set up this subnet. You don't need to use same availability zone where you are using with other subnets. Different availability zones can be opted for that. Then what happens if one subnet is down due to data center issues or something, another subnet is going to work for that.
Okay.
Because all systems are going to configure in the private subnet. The multiple private subnets which are installing, setting up, each subnet can be used with different availability zones within the region. Okay, but VPC as a whole, it will be in one region. For example, if you want to use multiple regions for the networking, then you need to take 2 or 3 VPCs, and VPC peering need to be done. Then those can be there in different regions, and within those VPCs, you can create subnets. Those subnets can be established in different availability zones for traffic handling purposes. You're getting?
Yeah, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Next one. So this is all about usage of the multiple availability zones with load balancing implementation. Okay. Implementing auto scaling to dynamically adjust the resource based on traffic and demand, ensuring applications can handle varying workloads. Basically, what happens? Auto scaling is there to protect the EC2s, protect the servers to EC2s. So if some EC2 is coming down or shutting down automatically because of the load, then autoscale is going to identify the health of the EC2. Immediately it is going to spin up another EC2 with the same backup. Let us say you are running multiple EC2s without using RDS, different availability zones in public and private. Those EC2s might have more load. When load is more, EC2s cannot tolerate. It is going to be shut down automatically. So when you install autoscaling, if you configure autoscaling with EC2s, it is going to monitor its health condition. Then it will say, it will observe that. Then within a minute or 2 minutes, if it is shutting down, within seconds, it is going to spin up another EC2, which is a backup of the existing EC2. That way, what happens? The workloads can be managed easily. So the best practice is, one is load balancer setup. Within that, auto scaling setup. Within that, multiple availability zones you are using. You have to make sure within the region how many availability zones are there. Can I distribute the traffic into the availability zones? Let us say in a website, you have 6 okay, 2 VPCs with 2 regions. Each region you might have 4 to 6 availability zones. You have to use all the availability zones to distribute the traffic. That way you need to architect the setup. Getting? You're getting?
Yes, I'm getting.
Okay, good. Then next one is utilizing RDS, utilizing Amazon RDS multi-availability zones for database redundancy and automatic failover. I discussed with you about the RDS. If you are setting up the RDS, you can distribute them into different zones. comparatively with existing subnets zone. So set up in a different zone, then it will be easy for you to manage it. Then leveraging Amazon S3 for data backup and replication across regions to safeguard against data loss. What does it mean? Let us say you have set up the RDS. Within the RDS, you can take the backup, periodical backup. Periodical backup means for every 4 hours or 6 hours, you can set up that backup. Then you can use one URL from S3. In the bucket, it is going to save the backed up files. That way, what happens if any crash happens in the database, you have the backup already. Okay, that is on another best practice as solution architect. Okay, then implementing health checks and setting up notifications using Amazon CloudWatch to quickly respond to potential users. When you talk about health checks, one is through auto scaling. Also, you can check the health checks for EC2s. Otherwise, the CloudWatch can have some alerts. That alerts need to be configured. So when those alerts are executed by monitoring the EC2 health condition, then you will come to know, yes, there is some issue with the server. Then you will recognize the auto scale is there or not in that particular website. If it is configured, you don't need to worry. Auto scale is going to manage that. If you have not configured auto scale, then manually you need to rework on that and setting up another EC2, copying those things. All those are efforts basically. But you are following in a systematic way. Here itself, we have planned auto scaling, and later on, just for monitoring purpose, you are using the CloudWatch. Implementing blue or green or rolling deployment strategies to minimize downtime during application updates. Basically, the deployment can happen in multiple environments. So if you have that multiple environments availability of the system application, then it can save a lot of time, downtime. Okay, that way you can protect the systems also. A successful example such as implementation was for a critical e-commerce application by utilizing multiple availability zones, auto scaling, and elastic load balancing. We achieved in high availability, resulting in zero downtime during peak shopping seasons, even in the event of agent failures, availability zone failures. So this is your experience you are saying in the interview.
Okay.
What kind of applications you use it? You have to correlate your past organization or past clients applications. There you can say, I have used AJET's auto scaling, ELB, and later following the S3 policies for backup with RDS. That kind of things you need to discuss it in the interview. Okay. So in this question, you got the answers how to answer the strategies what you followed it for best practices to implement highly available and fault-tolerant AWS environments. The fault-tolerant environment you want to achieve, first thing is load balancing, next one is auto scaling, then after that watching using the CloudWatch, and also taking the backups, periodical backups using the S3.
Okay.
Right? So what we'll do, I discussed with you 4 questions. In the next session, I'm going to discuss another 4 or 5 questions. You can stop the recording currently, and later session we'll see.
Okay. All right. So I have a question. How do you ask? So what prompt do you ask ChatGPT to give you to answer this?
First, you just stop the recording.